Welcome back to The Unacceptable News. I'm your host, Justin Bush. Today's story is about the Guardian UFO case. So back in the 90s, this case really made prominence in the UFO field. It was investigated by a man named Bob Oshler. Now, Bob has a history working for government. He was a scientist that worked for NASA for a period of time. Now, Bob reportedly worked for NASA and was reviewing information about UFOs. So apparently he was tasked to go to a NASA facility, work on their facility, doing some video analysis of some strange objects.
What are allegedly UFOs. But from your point of view, what is the single most convincing piece of evidence that you've come across that convinces you that we have been visited?
Well, I started out extremely skeptical about this whole thing. I thought this was just rubbish from the tabloids, but I was surprised to find thousands of U.S. government documents from intelligence agencies that tended to indicate that there was a little bit more to this than met the eye. So I went to seek guidance from the various highest levels of the United States intelligence community, and I was quite alarmed at what I was able to learn.
Now, we are, in this report that we're now going to show, we're going to hear a conversation featuring you. Tell me the context of that conversation.
Well, I had contacted Admiral Bobby Ray Inman, who was the head of the National Security Agency in the United States, Deputy Director at CIA, Director of Naval Intelligence, and a variety of intelligence posts, a technologist, and clearly someone that, if this was really accurate, that there really were UFOs and non-human intelligence around, this is a man who had to know. So I was able to contact him thanks to a contact through Admiral Lord Hill Norton here in the UK. And this conversation, he alarmingly not only indicated that these issues were covered under national secrecy laws, but that the United States government did in fact have possession of the hardware associated with this. In other words, this was an actual physical phenomenon.
A craft, a spaceship.
Several of them, and they were in operational condition, which...
So he essentially became a UFO investigator for a period of time. Now, he has shown his NASA badge. He has done many interviews in the past. I believe he has passed away a few years back. But at the time, there was a person that went only by the name Guardian. That's where this UFO case comes from. A video was sent to a UFO researcher, several photographs, and a letter where the recipient found that about half of the information that were sent to them seemed to be false or fabricated. These include photographs of alleged alien bodies. The UFO investigator thought it was so fraudulent and it was such a hoax that they decided not to really do an in-depth investigation, and they really just put it by the wayside. Now, a few years later, in 1991, Bob Oshler was contacted. Now, he was sent the same video, allegedly, with the same name, Guardian, as well as some other information of a supposed alleged crash or a landing of a UFO in a swampy area in Ontario. This all happened supposedly in Carleton, Ontario, between the years of 1989 and 1991. It's fairly difficult. I've had a fairly difficult time finding out when exactly the video was shot. I have a date of August 18th, 1991. I also have a date in 1989. I have not been able to tell whether the video was shot in 89 and then distributed in 1991. But there are several reports saying that this video was circulated between several people in the UFO community in the late 80s, early 90s. So when Bob Oshler received this video, even though he and many people in the UFO community deemed about half of the information in this packet was either a hoax or a fabrication, the video in the subsequent letter had enough information that you could do a preliminary research into, a preliminary investigation into the video. So we'll show you some clips from that video. Dr. Bruce Maccabee did a wonderful analysis of the video, and Bob Oshler went out to investigate. So when he got to Carleton, Ontario, he went around to the nearby families in the area where this video was supposedly taken. He found the area where it was taken. And he found multiple witnesses in the area that claimed that there was high strangeness going on these unidentified flying objects flying over the homes, as well as a myriad of helicopters that were showing up in close vicinity either shortly after or around the times of these unknown objects. Now, back in the 90s, and we'll put up a news article here, but back in the 90s, the mainstream media was attacking people that were seeing these helicopters as fringe conspiracy theorists. They were essentially saying that all these people that were seeing these unidentified black helicopters flying, not just in America, but all over the world, that these people were essentially lunatics, that there was nothing to this. These blacked out helicopters weren't, there was nothing anomalous here. Before the 1990s blacked out helicopter rash of sightings, our helicopters that were used for military programs all had different paint schemes. So you could tell, for instance, a state police helicopter from, say, an Air Force helicopter. And in the 90s, there was a massive rash of these helicopter sightings, and they were alleged to be in close proximity to UFOs or these strange phenomena, whether it be in England or whether it be in America. Now, today, in the 2020s, we know that these helicopters existed. They have retired some of them in the early 2000s. There are some of them that are literally in museums right now. We can post a clip. These helicopters are completely blacked out. There are no indicators, no numbers, and it has also been reported that they were flying with no transponders. So I want to bring that up because in this case, when Bob Oshler went out to investigate and he found some of these witnesses in the local area, there was a woman by the name of Diane Lebenik that reported not only seeing the UFO on the ground and described exactly what's seen inside the Guardian video, but she also described before that happened that there were low-flying unknown objects over the area near the swamp and that multiple people had witnessed this. She's also stated that these helicopters were seen in close proximity afterwards. Now, the reason I bring this up is because when the Guardian tape made its way out and Bruce Maccabee did his visual analysis, Bob Oshler did some analysis of this case, what ended up happening was the Canadian government came out, and I believe it was their police departments came out and said, well, hey, this is just a helicopter. The problem with that is there's no sound for this vehicle. If you are this close to a helicopter on the ground, you are going to hear it. You can hear dogs barking in the video, but you can't hear helicopter noises. And then because they reported the helicopters that showed up after this happened, they said, well, we have helicopters in the area. But never was any of the transponder information or who owned these helicopters, where they came from, why they were in the vicinity, why they would be landing in the swampy area without prior authorization. They essentially just kiboshed the whole thing. There's nothing to see here. It's just a helicopter. Everybody that watches the tape and they see the colors that are being emitted from the object itself, it is unlike any helicopter you'll ever see. I don't think you've probably ever seen a helicopter emitting purple and blue lights from it. Even police helicopters, they use standard red, green, and white indicator lights on the helicopter. So having these strange colors all over the helicopter, it also lends a little bit of credibility to if this is a helicopter, it's obviously an anomalous helicopter that's using these indicator lights that are completely anomalous to standard aviation. So what ended up happening with this entire case is because it was poo-pooed by the Canadian Ministry and Police, and because so much of the information about these, the additional information in these packages that were received by the UFO investigators, because so much of that information was considered to be fabricated, it became a huge stain on the UFO community. At the time that it came out, there was some response from people believing it might be real, it might be a fake. But then once the full breadth of the investigation came out, it has really become a stain to the UFO community, and many UFO investigators have wildly distance themselves from this case. So we're going to show you a clip from the supposed landed UFO, and we'll just see what you think.
On a small farm, a pulsating, glowing craft was captured on video by an anonymous source. Could this be the first videotaped account of an alien spacecraft landing on terrestrial soil? Bob Exler, a former NASA mission specialist, received the tape in the mail along with strange documents and a fingerprint from a source known only as the Guardian.
In my judgment, the so-called Guardian case is one of the most sophisticated and well-documented UFO cases in history. We have a videotape with some physical evidence from that. There was enough information in the package to suggest a landing site where the event occurred. We found witnesses, eyewitnesses to the event. This was clearly a disc-shaped object with some rather unique-looking appendages.
We don't know what that really represents, but it clearly is the overall shape, and you can see that because the flares in the background are illuminating smoke, which are backlighting this object.
Navy optical physicist Dr. Bruce Maccabee determined that the craft hovering above the field appears to be 25 feet in diameter. He doesn't think it's the work of a Hollywood special effects team.
This was a real event witnessed by some people other than Guardian, which makes this an important case. It's my opinion, it's not a hoax.
Dennis DeHate of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police disagrees. He believes the craft is real, but it's nothing unusual.
Most of the people I spoke with indicated that helicopters had been flying in the area for some time, that the sighting was not that of a UFO. In fact, as far as they're concerned, it was a helicopter.
DeHate analyzed the footage as part of a Canadian investigation.
After reviewing all the information, I'm convinced, and I'll always be convinced, that this is a helicopter.
My response to that is it's a ridiculous explanation.
So what do you think? Is it a real UFO landed in a field in a swampy area witnessed by the surrounding people? Or is this just an elaborate hoax? Is this a psyop? We know that these unidentified helicopters were seen in the area multiple times by witnesses. Is this just a government psyop? I mean, who is Guardian? And why did they send false information with a real landing case? Even if the landing is not a UFO and it's just a helicopter, then why are you sending a real situation with a bunch of fake information? That has led the UFO community to consider the Guardian case as one big hoax or psyop. So what do you think? Real UFO or helicopter conspiracy? If you'd like to support our channel, there'll be links in the description below as well as in the pinned comment. That's the unacceptable news. Don't like, don't subscribe, just run.